And joining me is I don't even need to introduce him. He's a legend in the comic industry. It's Matt Wagner. Matt, I want to welcome you to the Batman Book Club and thank you yet again. I've said it about 5 times already. Thank you for sitting down and talking to me.
Sure, my pleasure, man. And
Th-
talking about I can't swear to how good my memory's going to be. It's a project I did quite a while ago, so.
well, I felt bad because last year it was a comic bucket list. Got to talk to Steve Englehart twice on this
Oh,
show.
great. Yeah. Yep.
Talked to him about Strange Apparitions, my favorite Batman material of all time. And I'm sitting there asking him these questions, and I'm like, I need to apologize first off. I'm asking you to go back 50 years and like, can you tell me the story about blah blah blah?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was
Exactly.
great.
By
He
the minute.
Yeah, he was great though. He shared a lot of stuff. Some I'd read him say before, some a lot of new stuff to me. So that was great. So I'm only gonna ask you stuff of like 20 years ago. So not as
That's
bad, I
very
guess.
reachable. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
before I get to that, I ask everybody, comic professional, regular fan like me, first time on this show, what is your favorite Batman story?
Favorite Batman story. I'd have to say that the one that probably affected me the most, because I've been reading Batman since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Back when it was still kind of, goofy and campy, the stuff preceding the '60s
Yeah.
Adam Ward show. And I didn't realize it was campy. I thought it was just exciting.
Yeah.
Um, that was the first. That and George Reeves Superman. When I was a kid, that was the only superheroes on film you got to see.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say the Danny O'Neill and Neil Adams. What is the issue of Batman where he brings back the Joker?
Joker's Five-Way Revenge.
Joker's Five-Way Revenge, man. That
That's
had
it.
a big impact because it was the first time we saw the Joker being, returned to his kind of psychotic roots from the very earliest Detective Comics days, or I guess Batman days, is where Batman #1 is where he first appeared.
Yeah.
Um, and just the more serious approach to Batman. Neil Adams'
Hmm.
glorious art, really, really just a hot story, hot issue.
Yeah.
I
There-
remember there's one. I distinctly remember there's one. They're in an aquarium, and there's one shot where the
yes.
Joker's facing off with a shark through a tank. That's just what an amazing, amazing shot. And
Yeah.
then, of course, there's that towards the end. There's that just iconic full page splash of Batman, minus his utility belt. His utility belt's been
Hmm.
taken from him, but dashing across the beach from the Batmobile. And boy, they utilized that in a million different merchandising and extra use manners after that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a potent.
Uh,
Um,
You being, I mean, you're a writer and an artist. I can imagine that that cover has stuck with you ever since then too. Maybe the greatest Batman cover of all time.
well,
One of
yeah,
the
it's a
most
hard
memorable.
sell for me against Detective 31, the famous one of him looming
Oh,
up above the castle.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Man, that's a
We'll
punch.
talk
That's
about
a
that one
one-two
soon
punch.
too. There's a couple
Yeah,
couple versions of that one I want to
yep,
bring up to
yep,
you too.
indeed.
So, I mean, there's never a wrong answer in that question, but there are some answers that are much further closer to right than others. That's definitely
Hmm.
one that I love that
And
story.
then,
Can
of
never
course,
read it enough.
I was a very young professional when Frank did The Dark Knight Returns, and that
Hmm.
just had a
Sure.
resonating echo throughout the entire industry. We all sat there waiting for that next one to come out, and gnashing our teeth when #4 took so long to come out afterward.
Yeah,
#3,
that
uh,
there's like some moments that I think about just when I mean pop culture period, historical period, but then like definitely with Batman stuff that I'm like, man, I wish that I was there. And Dark Knight Returns is one of them, and the '89 Batmania. It's like those are two moments that I'm like, I
hmm.
wish I was in like teenage years at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time. That'd have been so fun to experience.
I constantly try and imagine myself at age 14 or so and seeing the original King Kong in the theater in
Oh wow.
1932 or whatever, and how that
Yeah.
just must have blown your mind.
There's so much
I mean,
charm
it
in
still
that
looks
movie.
great now.
Yes.
It would
Yep.
have looked absolutely uh, uh, transcendent back then. You
Yeah.
would have really thought you were in that adventure.
They found a real King Kong and filmed him. Unbelievable. They found
Yes,
dinosaurs.
exactly,
Oh my
exactly.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know this stuff existed. Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked to you, and you were very generous talking to me, going back and forth. I invited you on here to talk some Batman, so,
Mhm.
specifically, Batman work that you've done before, and you've done a lot, but I focused in on Dark Moon Rising
Mhm.
because that is that is work of yours that I continuously go back to. Tons of people keep going back to revisit, reread, and it's such a joy every time revisiting it. And I was like, man, Shot in the Dark, if he'd be willing to sit and talk a little bit about the making of process, the fun stuff
Sure.
that nerds like us love to listen to. And you agreed. I have the trade paperbacks of them. I didn't get the first run single issues, and then it was 2020 that Legends of the Dark Knight Matt Wagner was released, and it collected everything in that. And so that's what I'm grabbing. I'm always curious. Do you ever get, do you get heads up on releases of your work with something like this
No.
that it's come? No.
No, in fact, since
All
we're
right.
talking about Dark Moon Rising, just the other day, a box showed up from DC, comp copies of a brand new printing of
Yeah.
the first volume, The Monster Men. And I have to assume that means they're going to do the second one as well, The Mad Monk. And here's my suspicion about why they're doing that. I happened to see the trailer for season 2 of Cape Crusader, the new animated show. And there's a very brief, momentary shot of what looks like the Mad Monk. They must
Yeah.
be reaching to that same source material that I did. So I'm assuming
I,
that's why DC's putting it back into
yeah.
print. You know.
You know, so I didn't know that there was a new edition of the trade paperback coming out, and it was a listener actually messaged and had said like, "Hey, Man, Monster Man, new printing's coming out," and that's been out of print for quite a while.
Yep.
And so, yeah, when they did the Legends of the Dark Knight of your work, it was like, "Hey, everybody, there's a new version to get a
So
handheld."
I knew that was coming out because they had asked me if I had any developmental stuff, sketches and stuff like that I wanted to include. But this new printing of Monster Man, nope, just total surprise. Showed up on my doorstep. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I assume it's probably the same print from years ago when they collected it without
It's the same
much
print
new.
except
Yeah.
it has gloss on the cover, gloss
Okay.
coating as opposed to matte coating. I'm a sucker for matte coating.
Me too.
It's my first choice on everything, but
Yeah.
nobody consulted me, so they just went with their default gloss. You know.
Well, you kind of answered then too. I don't like to put on the spot like, hey, I'm here to try and get everything out of you. But I thought the same thing with Cape Crusader season two. 1 second shot, a guy in a red cloak, whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
that totally fits the time period.
Yep.
It's a guy in a red cloak, clearly with Batman. We think of Mad Monk,
Yep.
and so it sounds like if he's included, you don't know for sure, and you'll be surprised just like all of us.
Yeah, yeah, I will be. From how brief that shot was, I would suspect it's a single episode, like
Yeah.
some of the other characters from the first season. I really loved that first season. I thought it was
Yeah.
great. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the
Same
things I
here.
really loved about it, and that are usually the case for most of my favorite superhero movies or comic book movies, is Batman has no arc. He's the
Mm.
same guy at the end as he was at the beginning. He's just this mysterious presence that is a catalyst for what's going on. All the other characters, the more traditionally human ones, have the
Hmm.
character arcs. You know,
Yeah.
um, whereas he's other than by the end he finally relents and calls Alfred by his first name instead of
Yeah.
Pennyworth. So he does have a moment there, but it's not really an arc.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about the film Dread. The Judge Dredd in it has no arc. He's the
Hmm.
same badass guy at the beginning as he was at the end, and he's still gruff and emotionless, and yet you felt like you went on this terrific adventure with him.
Yeah.
Whereas Judge Anderson has his rookie that he's hosting. She has the arc.
Yeah. That's it. That's an interesting view. Yeah. Huh. I didn't think about it like that. Of course, I love my favorite
Yeah, I
movie.
mean, we all know Batman's origins. That's his
Yes,
arc. He
exactly.
kind of freezes after that. You know what I mean? He doesn't.
Don't need it to it's I think yeah, there's what you just said, the Alfred, like there's the part of it. I don't know if I'd say an arc, I guess. Maybe not of he's
It
just
just
like
lends it just lends him
better
some
with Alfred now.
humanity. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm
yep,
cool with that.
yeah.
I
Me
will
too.
revisit that stuff a lot more often, I think, than some other heavy material. So I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm no complaints. I was happy
Yep,
all along.
yep.
So let's let's go ahead. Let's rewind 20 years ago already. So Dark Moon Rising. I mean, I'm a sequential, and I know we'll start to detour and everything, but just what's the beginnings of even Dark Moon Rising? What this collection that is, you've probably heard it plenty, but in case you haven't, it's beloved by comic book fans, Batman fans. They freaking love the Dark. They just call it Dark Moon Rising.
Mhm.
What's the origins of it?
Well, originally it was going to be, I don't know if we had a title of Dark Moon Rising at that point, but originally it was going to be 12 issues.
Hmm.
Just a straight 12 issue adapting those two Golden Age stories. I'll come back to that in a second,
Yeah.
but into a contemporary setting. And then they for marketing reasons, DC's like, it would be better for us and for sales for you if we do it as two 6 issue things. So then I was like, okay, well then I can go the old school kind of alliterative thing with Batman and the Monster Men and Batman and the Mad Monk.
Yeah.
And then we came up with the Dark Moon Rising super title to connect the two. And
Nice.
strangely, other than that Legends of the Dark Knight complete collection you showed there, it's never been collected in one volume by itself. I have mentioned this to collections guys at DC 6, 7 times, and they go like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, we'll look into that." They never do anything with it, which just
So,
it surprises me.
so yeah, I mean the fact that that those two, and sorry to interrupt, but like those two things have not been reprinted so much, and it's like DC. I mean, and there's no shame in this. I understand you're a business. You like making money. Like
Hmm.
reprint, it will make money. I mean, fans have called for absolute editions of this. Maybe that's
Hmm.
coming in a year or two or something. I don't know. I'd buy it. I've
Again, they
already got
wouldn't
these.
tell
I'll
me,
buy
probably so.
it. But it does just kind of surprise me some things when it's so out of print. When it's like DC, you're not making any money off of these, and you will if you just reprint them. So
Yep,
hopefully
yep,
these new trade paperbacks make, sell really well because people
yep.
still love physical for these stories too.
They
But
sure do. Yeah,
anyways,
yeah. So I'm forgetting my own history here. What year did this come out originally?
2006 was, and then 2006 and 2007
So that's after Trinity.
after Trinity.
And is it after the run of covers I did for Batman? I think it is.
I think you did. It must have been
I
because
think it
I
is
know
after that.
you did
Yeah.
a Trinity cover for one of the Batman Red Hood storylines, which was like Detective Six something, I think
Six
630s.
35. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so it was after those two things.
Um, and I was, it was done by my longtime buddy and former brother-in-law Bob Schreck, who was Batman editor at that point. And yeah, I just pitched this here. I'd like to cast my eye on adapting these two stories that were Golden Age stories, pre-Robin Golden Age stories,
Hmm.
into a contemporary setting. They were always two of my favorites. If you go and look at the stuff I've done for DC, it's almost always very early in a character's career because I
Hmm.
love that original Golden Age stuff for its kind of unfettered sort of like the comic book tropes hadn't been set yet. These
Yeah,
guys are just making this shit up as they go along. They're very influenced by the pulp novels that
yeah,
preceded comic books. Um, and a particular note with these two stories. So the I think Monster Man is in Batman #1, I
hmm,
think, and the Mad Monk is the first 2 episode story that starts in Detective 31 and wraps up in Detective 32. Both of them are two of the most violent examples of Batman's activities in the Golden
yeah,
Age because he kills, he shoots people. The one of the monster men grows so gigantic that he climbs top of a building. Speaking of King Kong, climbs
yeah,
to the top of a building, and Batman circling in the bat plane. There's a panel where he goes, he has a Gatling gun mounted on the bat
yeah,
plane, and he says, "Normally, I hate taking human life, but in this instance, da, 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 da," shoots the monster man down off the skyscraper. And then with the Mad Monk, who of course in the original one, he and his gal Friday are vampires, and Batman finds them in their coffin, and he just plugs them both with a pistol and just shoots them.
it's a different time,
Yeah,
different era.
exactly, exactly. And it was kind of I think shortly after those two, and then the addition of Robin, that they
Yeah.
really dialed back on that. Of course, now there's a just across the board. Batman doesn't use guns. You're not allowed to show him with a gun. Um, but anyway, so I was drawn to the kind of horror aspects of
Yeah.
both of those stories. The early Batman stories were a mixture of crime and a bit of horror, and those were kind of most particularly horror. That Detective 31 cover we were talking about earlier is so gothic, such a gothic image of him, this
Yes.
giant image of him looming above this like fog enshrouded castle, and there's this evil red KKK looking dude at the bottom
Yeah.
toting away some helpless maiden. It's so
Hmm.
gothic. Um, and that stuff always appealed to me as well. So that was why I was drawn to those two storylines particularly.
Okay.
And additionally, I wanted to give Bruce some humanity by exploring the fact that in the earliest Golden Age stories, he had a regular girlfriend whose
Yeah.
name was Julie Madison. He dated her as Bruce Wayne outside of his activities of Batman. It wasn't like she was like Catwoman, one of his enemies that he had this frenemy
Hmm.
relationship with. She was Bruce Wayne's girlfriend. I
Hmm.
think fiance even at one point.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to examine her because I just especially in those old early golden age ones, the reason he had a girlfriend is because that's what normal people do.
Hmm.
they
Yeah.
they have relationships. One of Batman's biggest sources of inspiration, of course, is the character the Shadow, the
Yeah.
radio and pulp character the Shadow. And on the radio show, the Shadow had a girlfriend named Margot Lane. And the way they always introduced her at the beginning credits was Lamont Cranston's constant friend and companion, the lovely Margot Lane. Well,
Constant.
1930s, right? 1930s and 40s audiences knew what constant friend and companion meant.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
meant she's his lover, he's his girlfriend. So I wanted to explore this human side of Bruce, and also I really liked it having it really early in his career. I think of
Hmm.
it as Batman year 1.5. You know,
Yeah.
because he's at this point he still thinks he can win. He still thinks
Hmm.
he'll be able to crack organized crime in Gotham and break the hold the criminals have on his beloved city. And I kind of like that aspect of it because if you're a warrior and you're going to war, you must feel like you're going to win. Otherwise, it's just a
Yeah.
hopeless grind.
Hmm.
So I liked being able to explore that little bit with him. And then I
Yeah.
loved I love uh, the old death trap scenario with Batman. Like he
Yeah.
gets in a situation and how the hell does he get out? And they're usually some way very clever and he doesn't automatically pull this magic device off his utility belt and it solves all his problems. He has to figure out how to use the bare
Yeah.
minimum of what he's got with him. So I like that playing with those aspects of it. Uh, yeah, so that's basically the genesis of the entire project.
Gotcha. So when you have an idea, and I've heard, I think Scott Snyder has been very vocal about this, listening to him talk, but others as well, of at least now it's kind of like you don't go to DC with a Batman story. You have like they have to come to you to
Yeah.
hear an idea. Is that how it was for you at that time too,
No,
or
no. Back in my day,
different?
it was like you approached them. Different
Gotcha.
era. Different
Yeah.
era. Uh,
So
uh,
what you proposed, aside from how you already said that they split it up to two 6-issue stories, were you basically these two stories, did they get to as
oh yeah, pretty much almost
proposed?
exactly as I proposed. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
great.
luckily, again, my problem is, I kind of came up through the indie field.
Hmm.
And so as a result, I'm not used to playing under anybody's rules.
Yeah.
And certainly I don't want to completely break the rules. I,
Yeah.
I know what sort of character Batman
You're
is. I wouldn't want to,
professional.
right. I wouldn't want to come play with that kind of character if I didn't
Yeah.
want to play with that kind of character. Um, but generally, in my entire career at DC, I've been lucky enough to work with people, four editors only at DC, and all of them had this philosophy of leave him alone.
Hmm.
just let
Great.
him do what he's going to do. Go ahead, it'll be fine. So my very first editor over there was the legendary Archie Goodwin, and Archie,
Nice.
since he had such a history of being a writer himself, he had a very soft touch when it came to the creative aspect of things.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, my longtime buddy Bob Schreck, Karen Berger, when I wrote Sandman Mystery Theater for Vertigo, she too was very hands off, um, and I think that's it. There's only three, isn't it?
But you'd already built yourself a reputation of being of like Matt will get it done. with good
Yeah,
results.
yeah, I
So
don't have a reputation
therefore,
for
yeah,
difficulty,
great.
but it's also like, don't tell me tiny little things that need to be
Yeah.
done. You know what I mean?
That's great. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear it wasn't listen for give me some juicy tidbits, Matt, of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Clashed or anything. That's
Even
great that.
even I will say when I was cover artist on both
Hmm.
Kevin Smith's run, and then
Mm,
following that on Green Arrow, and then
yeah.
after that I was on Batman for a while. Uh, in no instance in any of those issues did I get to read the script first.
Oh.
I was given a very brief outline of what happens in the issue,
Hmm.
sentence, maybe two. It was like, give us something.
Hmm.
And I would turn in, I have a habit of only turning in one sketch. It's like, here, what do you think of this? And they were always like, yeah, on the occasion it wasn't, but pretty rare.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm just used to kind of
That's
doing my own
great.
thing. Yeah.
You understand the assignment.
Yeah, I guess
In
that's
the
true.
end.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd ask,
Here, let
why
me tell
is,
you a funny. Let me tell you.
ooh,
Let's
please
just
do.
backtrack for just a second. Let me tell you a funny one where it didn't work out smoothly.
Uh-oh.
So it was on Batman, and again, Bob Schreck was the editor, and this was an issue where one mob boss sends assassins to the private school where the daughter of another mob boss goes to
Mm,
hit her, and Batman finds out about this. So Batman shows up during the day, very rare for him,
hmm.
you know. So Bob had this what sounded to me like a convoluted idea of a blackboard and the outline of a body like the police do at a crime scene,
Yeah.
and then some blood on the blackboard, and Batman kind of putting a piece of chalk back down in the chalk rack, his hand. And I thought that sounds stupid as hell. And so I turned in
Huh.
this sketch of Batman kind of like this with the sun glaring behind him, and Bob said, "Yeah, yeah, this one looks okay. Can we go back to the idea with the blackboard?" So I finally was like, "All right, he's stuck on this blackboard thing." So I did it, and it turned out great.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is like, "What the hell do I know?" You know?
All right, finally, one for them, the rest for me. Okay, like I
Mhm.
got you what you
Exactly,
wanted.
exactly that. Yeah, and I
Uh,
was very happy with the way it turned out. I mean,
sure.
for some reason, I forget how, but I really got it looking like a blackboard. It really looked like a blackboard.
Very cool.
My son was the right age where I had him write down some math equations, so in
Yeah.
his like 10-year-old hand. So then I just duplicated those right on the blackboard, and the eraser ended up looking really like a
Yeah.
blackboard eraser. Everything worked, so I was very
Awesome.
happy. Yep.
That's great. Well, you were touching on why you chose like these stories, and the Golden Age isn't for those Batman stories aren't ones that I revisit a ton, nor can I like just sit and kind of binge read them. But I know that like there's elements of them that I'm like, oh, a refresh or not a
Hmm.
refresh, but like an update, in style, not even the story. So, the gothic aspect, like you'd said, like oh my gosh, Batman and excuse me. Gothic goes together. Batman, I'm not anti-Robin or anything. My preference is solo Batman. And I
Yeah.
do like him in those earlier years figuring it out. I do like him where he doesn't have tech everything around his belt to just
Hmm.
get him out of
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
And he's got to just use his mind and so it's like these are kinds of stories in doing like the very first one, Case of the Chemical Syndicate. I forget if it was Detective 620. There was some kind of 27, and they had a bunch of different teams doing basically cover versions of that story. And I think one was Norm Brayfogle, and it was such a like, oh, this looks like awesome with like just some updated art.
Hmm.
Because of
Hmm.
course, 1930 storytelling is different than now, and blah
Yeah,
blah blah.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And in
And
fact, we mentioned the Shadow.
mhm.
That story is a direct ripoff of a Shadow novel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forget which one it's called. The
Huh.
Can't remember, but it's exact. And in fact, if you go look at the illustrations, do you remember at one point the villain drops a big cylindrical bell down on
Mm.
top of Batman and this
Hmm.
one victim, and that's straight out.
That's the shadow.
That's illustrated in the pulp magazines even.
It's
Yeah.
always nuts to me of stuff like that. One that's first, and then in this case, but look, sorry, but like who's still in the conversation all these years
Oh
later? It's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Batman,
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
the Shadow.
yeah.
Kind of like a totally off subject, but it's like you think of an orange cat, everybody's like Garfield, and it's like no, Heathcliff, and it'd be like Heathcliff's such a ripoff. It's like actually Heathcliff came first, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Garfield's the one that's still in the conversation where it's
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. You can't. can't predict it.
But
But
as you were saying there, the him not having, a million different tech things,
hmm
he was also still a detective,
hmm
and he was also like his costume served a purpose. It was there to scare people.
yeah,
Whereas now his costume's armor. He's a paramilitary character now, um, and that's just a difference in the times.
yeah,
The populace is better armed than it was back in the 30s, and uh, the nature of crimes are different than it was back in the 30s. The police are better armed than they were back in
hmm
the 30s. But yeah, I love the kind of primitive aspects of those. It's the same way I love early rock and roll for its just stripped
a
down,
little more
bare,
raw,
non
bare.
fancy.
Yeah,
So you mentioned not going back to read those again and again. Yeah, I don't really read them. I go back and look at them and
yeah,
pick up on the aesthetic and the the cool story elements more than
yeah.
the actual story and storytelling. As you said, much more primitive, much more aimed at a young audience.
Well, I applaud you because us having this conversation got me to go back and reread them. And I mean, and I can have images in my head, like the cover of the Detective 31. Obviously, like I know that image. And then there's, of the Mad Monk in that story. And then in the Monster Men, of like, I can picture Batman and the two large monster men and what Hugo looks like. But it's like the story specifics itself are very fuzzy. So it was
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
to read those, then
Hmm.
revisit yours and kind of and draw of, oh, this is where he expanded on this part, he
Hmm.
expanded on this part here. I think something that's really interesting, you said year 1.5, that and then tone. uh like how did you toe those lines of parts that pluck from, like, this is a continuation from year one, as well as like the tone, because I wouldn't say this isn't like a raw, brutal, overly violent and like gruesome story, but it's got
Has its
horror
moments.
elements,
It
it's
has
got
its moments of
mature
that. Yeah,
elements.
yeah, yeah.
And I think it's a perfectly done Batman story in the sense of Batman can be very mature, but it's never uh like, I'm thinking the Nolan movies, and Burton was accused of his movies being really dark, but it's like, but there's something different with Batman where it's not grotesque,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't think these are grotesque
Hmm.
either, and I think that's
Well,
why it
it's not
stands
grotesque in a
the
gore
test of
way.
time.
There
Hmm
is grotesquerie, because of course his villains are kind of like old Dick Tracy villains, where they're
hmm
misshapen, in many ways. But if you look at year one, year one's very, very grounded.
hmm
He's only going up against normal criminals, organized crime.
Yeah,
Catwoman shows up, but she's more a kind of rogue adventurous at that point.
yeah,
Um, but whereas with my two stories, we start to introduce a sense of the bizarre, and where it's going to go from here. These giant,
yeah,
genetically altered giants, and something a character that may or may not be a vampire.
hmm
Um, uh, so it was kind of the beginning of that, and then of course, Dark Moon Rising ends with him. This is a connection to year one. He's answering the bat signal that Jim Gordon is broadcasting in the very final panels of year one, saying they've just gotten this note from this nut who claims he's going to poison the water supply, calls himself the Joker. Um, so yeah, I did refer back to year one stuff here and then. Tried to use Mazzucchelli's same depiction of Wayne Manor.
hmm
There's also there's
oh,
a bit. A visual bit I referred to very specifically. So early on, you see Bruce training, and he swivels into a side kick and kicks a tree and shatters the trunk. And then later, you see him doing the same thing when he's battling the SWAT agents that have
oh
him trapped
yeah,
in that crumbling building. I use the exact same. Mazzucchelli duplicates the same pose at the same camera angle to indicate, to be a callback to that scene earlier where he's training.
hmm
Um, I use the same thing when he's trapped in the giant cell with the dungeon with the monster men. He kicks one of the monster men in his knee, and it's the exact same pose. It's a vertical panel through the middle of the page.
I know this is great radio, I know, as I'm looking down and trying to find it. And I'm like, how did I miss that one? Because I do have some other parts marked to ask you that same thing. If do, you assume, of course, especially when you're drawing it, that you know, if things are purposely done or if it's just, you know, by chance. I didn't have that one marked. There is the bottom of, I don't know, I think this is the first issue. It reminds me that
Oh
image of
yeah, that one
Batman.
too. Yes, yes, that one too. There's
Okay.
another shot almost exactly like that in year one. Yeah.
In year
Yeah. Which is
one,
always one of my favorite panels in year one. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do an homage to that for sure.
this one, his position, I have it marked as Batman one, and
Yep,
it's telling the
exactly.
origin
Yep,
story.
yep, exactly so. Yep, which
And
is
then let's see.
which is in itself a ripoff of uh, a panel from Hal Foster's Tarzan Sunday comic strips. It's that
Oh.
figure is Tarzan bent over like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm learning so much. This and then this is in Mad Monk issue one and that Gordon image. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. That made me think of him at the end of year one on the roof, but that one
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
more of a sketch to
that
me.
wasn't a specific homage to one image, but yeah, that's the same sort of vibe for him for sure.
They just feel very like classic Batman images,
Hmm.
which are great. Like
Hmm.
like this is Matt Wagner's version of classic Batman, and
And
I'm here for it.
I prefer the early days, you know, where
Hmm.
he is still a loner, you know.
Yeah.
God,
Yep.
how big is the Batman
Same.
family now? And it's like
Too big.
that kind of ruins the lone Avenger image, doesn't it? You know?
Well, it makes me sound as if I'm some kind of cranky, you know, old man or something like that too. And when people start to say, "Where's, you know, where's the third Robin solo movie and where's the second Batgirl solo?" And I'm like, man, none of them would exist without Batman. We're
Yeah,
here for
yeah, yeah,
Batman. Like,
yeah, yeah,
have your fun, but like,
yeah.
we're here for the big guy. Okay,
Yep,
we're here
yep.
for Batman. Um, something that what I have marked when it came to like so I mean, we'll just get to it. It's interesting to me that I noticed this time around, and if I had before, I'd forgotten. I love that each issue opens with a full page like
Splash. Yep,
splash.
yep. Yeah, that was very
Intention
much.
is that intentional, Matt?
Yeah, very much. It's very much a kind of harkening back to a movie serial sort of thing, where a movie serial would have a chapter placard that would come up and
Yeah.
say, you know, chapter 10, you know, the chase across the plains or something like that, you know. I wanted it to be that the camera would be filled to the brim with one image, usually kind of close up, you know,
Hmm.
and then we pull back and we get a feel for where we are and what's going on, you know.
Love it. Love it. And with art, of course, comes your covers, which you know, in I'm not an artist. I always say on here my stick figures are terrible. But when it comes to like coloring, the coloring of those covers look a little different than the coloring on the like internally. So what's the
They
process
are
of the covers?
because here again, keep referring back to the original pulp magazines. I was
Hmm.
trying to recreate that kind of flavor,
Yeah.
and those were done as painted covers. But the printing process was fairly primitive at that point. So when you look at actual printed versions of those pre Golden Age pulp covers, you can
Hmm.
almost see, you know, printing is done in four different layers of ink. It's black, red, yellow, and blue. The four of those meld to make every color that you see printed. And when you look at them, they almost seem like you can see the four different levels. Like the blacks seem to kind of sit outside of it all.
Hmm.
So I did those all as ink wash paintings that then Dave Stewart colored over. So that's why they have a different flavor because they have ink wash toning underneath Dave's colors.
Dave Stewart, legend. It's
Yeah.
like I'll
Yep.
see his name everywhere.
Yep.
Legend.
Yep. Lives I don't know, 12 minutes from me, something like
Oh, really?
that. Yeah.
Well, how about that? It's a small
Yep.
world.
Yep.
Um, we mentioned it earlier, and like the Detective Comics 251, Joker's Five-Way Revenge, one of the greatest Batman covers of all time. This cover, but specifically even your version, is also in the discussions of one of the greatest Batman covers of all time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is phenomenal. I love this, and I understand that it's been done. I know Neil Adams did that cover.
A
I
great one.
mean,
That was another seminal
1969.
moment for me as a Batman reader. That when that
Nice.
issue came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, and it stems back to the Detective 31, like we'd already said. But like, so I'd imagine you were like, okay, I'm doing this cover. You knew this.
Yeah.
There was
For
no
sure. Yep.
hesitation.
Yep.
What goes into, it's an artist cover version of a cover. Like, so when you're thinking of something like this, like what's that like of what you want to emphasize,
You're
what you
trying
want to
to
leave
you're
out,
trying
what you want
to
to
right,
add.
right. You're trying to give it your own spin. You're trying to maintain part of what made it cool in its original form.
Hmm.
Like if you go and look at the original Detective 31, the Batman figure is very it's almost modern art. He's very
Hmm.
distorted. He's large. He's got a very kind of like square head. The ears are these big curving things, almost horns, rather than the ears we've become used to, the bat ears. Um, he looms over the castle so huge. So, I didn't want to do that sense of distortion. I wanted to keep it a
Hmm.
little more uh, traditionally illustrative. Um, but, you want to retain the cool stuff from the
Yeah.
original. Like I added his wolves. Those aren't on the
Oh yeah.
original. Um, but those are a nod to the Neil Adams version of it. There's wolves on that cover. Um, there's a private collector that has had me over the past 10 years or so slowly doing cover recreations
Hmm.
of all the pre-Robin detective covers. There's 7 of them in total.
Oh.
I've done 5 so far. And when we get off here, I'll email you those. You can include them in your, if you can do
Oh really?
graphics, you can
Yeah.
include them, sure.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
awesome. Yeah,
and
thanks.
you could see some of the problems you run into translating stuff. For instance, there's one, forget which number it is, but Batman's swinging on a bar and he's kicking these bad guys that are coming up the stairs, and they're just grotesquely stereotyped Asian characters, total yellow peril,
Yeah.
sort of distorted. So I had to
Different
figure out a
time,
way
different
to
era.
yeah, yeah, but I had to figure out a way to render that and not
Yeah.
still give it that sense of being an other enemy,
Yeah.
without being a racial stereotype. You'll
Sure.
see what I ended up doing. Uh,
Wow.
the perspective is screwed on a bunch of them. It's
Hmm.
there's decisions making you have to do. You're either going to do a straight recreation of what went before in your
Yeah.
style, or you're going to adapt it. And that I adapted all of them. So
Yeah. I can't wait to see him. That'll be awesome. W- um do you still do conventions?
not much, not
Not much.
much.
Okay.
Once when the pandemic hit and everything
Yeah.
shut down, I just kind of got used to not going to conventions. And when everything
Yeah.
fired up again, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really miss doing that. I'm,
Yeah. What
older
was
older guy now. I don't quite have the energy for it.
would you do these prints? Like would you do prints that you sold at
I've been
conventions?
thinking about it. I would actually probably re-render them because they're done in colored marker, and I would probably do them as ink wash
Gotcha.
paintings.
Yeah.
Um, the
Y-
additionally the original client uh, didn't have the budget to have me do the titles.
mm,
The rendering type on an original is tedious as shit, so I charge a lot
yeah.
of money for that. So he couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
But I would probably, if I was doing these as prints, I would probably include the Detective
Very
Comics
cool.
title.
Yeah.
But the neat thing about that too is, I did a recreation of a famous Action Comics cover for another private commission, and what I can do that they would never do in the old days is I can cover up as much of the logo as I want. Of course, they would never do that in the old days,
Yeah.
but those logos are so iconic now that you don't need to
Yeah.
see all of it. You can see part of it and still know what it is.
Oh,
Uh,
that'd be cool. This would be one that I mean you do a print and I would find a way to buy one and frame it. That'd be on my Batman covers like prints. That this would be one of them.
right
So
on.
there you go. And there's more people than just me that would say that.
Yeah.
What more with the story. So Julie Madison, you mentioned her earlier. This was a very uh I think like really memorable take of that character. And there are parallels. I'm not sure if you did you ever see Mask of the Phantasm, that
Yeah,
animated movie from the,
yeah,
did
yeah.
you see any parallels between Julie Madison
Well, she
and
doesn't
Andrea
end
Beaumont?
up becoming the villain.
Oh yeah. I
um, I mean, the main thing I wanted to examine with her was her relationship with her father and Bruce, the two men in
yeah.
her life.
Yeah.
And Bruce is, out fighting crime, and her father kind of inadvertently, almost against his will, in his role as a businessman, gets drawn into the world of organized crime. And so, just that dichotomy between the two men in her life and how they are both affected by criminal activity,
Yeah.
um, and what effect that has on her.
Yeah. And I think that's explored really well, and it gives like so much good meat there because different angles. And when I say parallels, is just the fact of like her father is involved, like gets caught up with some shady figures. She's the love interest of Bruce, who's also dual identities. Um, but I think what I really liked here is the you see why Bruce, he's still optimistic,
Hmm.
but he's figuring out it can't work, and you can feel it because she is a character that you root for and that you like, and
Hmm. Hmm.
you can feel the disappointment when he stands her up every time, is extremely late at another time, and
Hmm.
her
Hmm.
internal dialogue, which that's another thing I haven't even commented on, is how easily it is to, because sometimes it can get very difficult when writers, that they love to write and they love their words, and they're making it kind of difficult. Wait, who's speaking now? I think yours just flows, and I'm a big fan of reading of like just a story just moves. It's never making you stop and wait, what? Question
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
You can just keep going.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, with Julie, I think you gave her a lot of like substance in the
Hmm.
story, and
Hmm.
this is like a memorable Julie Madison story as well.
Hmm. Yeah, thanks. I mean, I try. You know,
Yeah.
writing as a male, writing from a female perspective is always a
Hmm.
challenge. But that's what fiction is. You write. I always tell people sometimes I have to write from a female perspective, and I'm not a female. I'm also not a psychopath or a wizard or a detective,
Yeah.
and I've written from all those points of view too. So
You can just
that's
write a good
fiction.
character.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
think,
Yep.
get in the head of this character that you're writing.
Yep.
Uh, when you set out for this, was there anything, and the question's kind of twofold, anything that you knew, I have to draw this? And I'm talking about all 12 issues. I have to draw this. And then anything afterward that you can definitely remember of like, wow, that surprised me. Like you surprised yourself on something that you drew.
Uh,
And there's a lot of great images in these two books.
the no, I knew. I mean, I'm always the sort of writer artist that where the story comes first more than the
Hmm.
images, and the images will provide themselves and become, you write things. First of all, I always claim that I write like an artist and I draw like a writer. and and the point is, when I'm doing my own stuff, when I'm not working with writing for another artist, or in a much rarer occasion, drawing for another writer, um, I'm not like, I don't write out a script first.
Hmm.
I do my layouts. At the same time, I'm kind of concocting phrases and voices in my head, and then I draw it, and then I script it after I've drawn it. But as I'm drawing it, I'm saying to myself, here he's saying this, and I need to provide this much space to fit my word balloons, the necessary amount of word balloons in here, or
Hmm.
captions or whatever. So it's all kind of an organic thing where I'm kind of sculpting it all at once from all different angles.
Yeah.
Um, and then by the end, it's we have the art, we have the script, it's all ready to go.
Were you at this time were you were you working from home, or
Oh yeah,
did you
I've
have
worked
to
from
go into
home for
offices?
no,
Okay.
no, I've worked from home for years and years and years. Yep.
So were you able to, because there's a in the Marvels collection for Alex Ross, it's like the there's commentary in like special editions of that, and other people that worked at Marvel at the time and everything saying of like when you knew Alex had a page done, it was like all the talk in the bullpen and people coming and be like, "What do you do next?" I didn't know if you were able to kind of get any feedback from people as you're submitting, or if you submitted, here's the entire issue, and you're able to
Yeah,
share any
it would
feedback.
be the entire issue, and I'd get feedback from Bob,
Yeah,
Bob Schreck. You know, let's see. What year did we say this was?
2006.
So yeah, I
So I
was
don't know
definitely work. I was
how
working at home by
early.
that point.
Okay,
I
how
used to have a group. I
early?
used to have a group studio,
Uh-huh.
and then my kids were quite young, and my wife was going to go back into the job market, and we decided to kind of like build an add-on to our house, and that became my studio.
Nice.
Because it just made sense for me to be at home for
Sure.
the kids, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's a certain amount of discipline you need at that point because having a group studio is great because you get immediate feedback from everybody. You can also be a danger because you sit around and chat with your buddies too long, you
Yeah.
know. Again, there's a certain amount of discipline there. But similarly, there's discipline when you're working at home alone. Don't go on YouTube. Don't go watch TV.
Yeah.
Get to work. And ssimilarly, at the end of the day, it took me years to learn that once I close that studio door, I'm done for the day. I don't come back down here.
Yeah.
It'd be too easy to just keep wandering back into your
Sure.
workplace all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, I didn't get a whole lot of immediate feedback from Bob, and I would show it. I have a couple of like phone buddies, and I would show it to them, and uh, that's about it.
Excuse me. It's funny to learn sometimes of like how far ahead so of how long it takes for a comic by the time that it's being released. So by the time issue one's released, you might already be working on issue two of Mad Monk or something. Do you remember any kind of feedback once it
I'll,
started to come out?
uh, I remember, yeah, because of course, at least the first part of Monster Men was coming out by the time, and I was still working on towards the second half of Mad Monk, as you said. So yeah, I was getting feedback from the press at that point. Everybody seemed to really like it.
Cool.
It was selling very well. It was the same with Trinity when I was doing Trinity. Trinity
Yeah.
got a really great response. Um, uh, uh,
It's got to feel gratifying,
yeah,
especially
sure,
when this is
sure.
something of you pitched, it's going as is. So it's your idea without much, if any, resistance. And then okay, what's the audience? That's the biggest, factor. Does the audience like it? And the audience liked it. I feel
Yeah.
like that's a great, hopefully that's a good feeling. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
hell
I'm onto
yes, it is.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Trust me, people.
It's a funny conundrum because ultimately your audience is what you're working for, and towards.
Yeah.
And yet I always say that I never consider my audience when I'm creating it. I only consider me. Like
Hmm.
I have to love it first. If I don't love it, the audience isn't going to love it. If I'm not completely creatively satisfied with what I've done, audience is going to notice that, you know?
So I love that because I've heard variations of what you just said all over the place, scattered throughout TV, movies, script writing, comics, anything. It's what's the Batman story that I want? What's the horror story
Yeah.
I want? What would I blah blah. So if someone is kind of not understanding what that means, like what do you mean by that? Of like, well, I thought of what's the story that I want. Why is that crucial in the creative field?
Because I have to be thrilled. I'm
Yeah.
writing thrilling stories. I have to be thrilled by them, by the creation of them. And believe
Hmm.
me, there's plenty of times where I'm working on stuff and I get an idea and I'd just be like, "Oh, that's so good." Oh man, that's going to be great,
Yeah.
Very particularly of in recent years, I've been doing this series of graphic novels about Dracula with artist Kelly
Yeah.
Jones, who has his own Batman legacy.
Yeah. I've been able
Uh,
to talk to him on here before too. For
yeah,
some
yeah,
reason, he responded to my email.
yeah. Well, there you go. But we're now on the fourth volume of our Dracula series. We do those as Kickstarter campaigns. The fourth one kicks off in October for Halloween, Dracula month. Um, but just repeatedly in that, I'm writing to Kelly's strengths, and I'll get all giddy with, oh shit, this is Kelly's gonna look, he's gonna do so good on this scene, and then and then the pages come back and they're better than I could
Yeah,
have than I could have imagined or hoped for. So that's
awesome.
what I mean. The act of creating this stuff is, I mean, for the people that last in the industry and at this art form, it's because we get such an intense and intimate thrill out of it, the
Yeah.
creation of it.
And it may sound, I think, some can think it sounds pretentious or just not like, wow, you really have your nose in the air. But I think it's true of a creator's not into it. You can, as an audience, you can definitely tell. It's
Sure.
indescribable, but it's like you can tell like this doesn't jive. Did they really
Hmm.
want to do this? Was this
Yeah.
just a money grab?
Yeah,
And
yeah. I
to
mean,
each their own,
you some of
but
the bigger cross company projects, you could tell there was a million hands in that stew.
yeah, which
Um,
everybody understands apparently that's not the way to do it, and yet it still happens. I don't
yeah, I
understand that
know, I know. Well,
part.
corporate
You guys
America gets
know.
its way. Yeah.
Uh,
But
see,
I mean, the at the end of the day, it's just so fun.
yeah,
I mean, I get to write and draw comic books. It's like the dream job I imagined when I was 6 years old. And I
yeah,
actually do it. So it's still an absolute joy to me. I'm never going to retire. I'm just
never.
gonna keep going.
You heard it. Headline: Matt Wagner never will retire.
Never retire.
Never will retire. Yeah, I'm
We'll
a
we'll
writer, by the way.
definitely we'll definitely slow down.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, I understand that. Uh,
um, but
did
it's just I'm my own boss. Why would I quit?
yeah, and apparently you're good at your job. So keep going.
Yeah, so long as there's an audience. I mean, if it gets to the point where nobody buys my shit at all, then
I
maybe.
would. I'm not a gambling man, but I'd gamble you're not going to see that day. So
I
there you
hope
go.
not. Yeah, yeah. You never know.
Did you
Every
have?
flavor gets stale eventually, I think. So
I'm. Yeah, I guess. Did you have idea for a continuation, or was that never a thing you were interested in?
you
Because
mean
you did
past
tease.
the end of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to have done him going off to meet the Joker, but they had just I think they had actually wrapped production on the Ed Brubaker, Doug Mankey, The Man Who Laughs
Hmm.
one shot. That's that story. So there was
Yeah.
no opportunity for me to really go into it. So
Did you always have in mind to end it on that, that fun nod of the Haley Circus in 2 weeks or two
yeah,
weeks only?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, yep, yep,
Because I do
yeah.
know,
I guess you could say that was definitely an image that was there from the beginning.
yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, there's letting the story continue in the audience's head. Oh, was this a tease? And I think it's been, debated over the years of, well, I think he had more. Otherwise, why would he have put the Haley Circus? He wanted to do a Robin story.
It's
I've never
I
seen him
could
say
have,
that anywhere.
sure, I could
Yeah.
have, sure, but you just want to end on this evocative
Yeah.
note that has resonance. I mean,
Hmm.
Trinity the same way. Trinity ends with uh, Batman fighting Bizarro, and since they're both basically big solar batteries, he uses his heat vision on, but cuts off Bizarro's hand, and we
Hmm.
find out later that infusing his fractured Kryptonian cells with all that solar radiation turned it into red kryptonite.
Yeah.
And so the last thing you see is his hand now crystallized sitting at the bottom of the ocean as red kryptonite. And sure, I could have done more with that, but that's just a great ending note too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the story can continue on in your head.
yep,
Here, I mean,
yep,
you put right at the bottom of the page, the end. And also the
yeah.
page before it is wrapping up uh Julie's new life
Julie's story,
and
yep, yep, mm, yep.
Batman's continuing on solo. I think
Hmm.
you put a bow on this to where it is not like Matt Wagner ends Batman. It's like, no, this
Hmm.
story, it's
We
finished.
know we know it continues. Yeah, yep. This was just
You
my moment of
yeah,
it.
pick your direction on which Batman story's next or whatever. And
Yep.
um yeah, oh man, I'm just flipping through now to see if I had other questions because I will hate this that tomorrow I'll wake up and be like, oh damn, I didn't ask him this one. I think one of the maybe the best image to open up to, like issues to open up to, is the Iron Maiden.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah!
Nothing like an Iron Maiden. Doesn't get more gothic than an Iron Maiden, does
Oh
it?
my God. Yeah. And then, I mean, you turn the page and then you see the guy, the aftermath.
Yeah,
And I'm
yep.
like, man, I mean, it's weird to say stuff like that. I was like, man, that was cool. But I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it was.
Well, it's gruesome. We humans have a genuine morbidity. They were
Yeah.
intrigued by seeing seeing our physical reality disrupted.
Hmm.
Violence is intriguing. Violence is also both sex and violence. Drama is about change. If
Yeah.
you don't make things changing, there is no drama. And generally, sex and violence are the agents of change.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean things have to be completely sexy to being the point of porno or completely
Yeah.
violent to the point of being something like the Terrifier films.
Hmm.
One of my favorite and most romantic and I think sexually charged films is the Keira Knightley version of Pride and Prejudice.
Hmm.
And there's not even a kiss till the last 5 seconds of the film. And again, that film is so sexually charged from beginning to
Yeah.
end. These characters yearning for each other against their will, and these star-crossed lovers that finally work out at the end.
Yeah.
So the whether it's the presence of sex and violence, or the threat of sex and violence, or the possibility of sex and violence, Shakespeare
Yeah.
knew those were important.
He was ahead of the game. He was
Yep,
ahead of the game. He knew.
yep.
I did see something that I passed on here that two different things I think are they all in Mad Monk, but you have cameos of Catwoman, Harvey Dent, and
Hmm.
Falcone, whichever you prefer
Yeah,
to
and
say.
they very much, he still has the scratches that he got from year one. So those are some other instances of me referencing what Frank had done in year one, which I thought was just such a wonderful, wonderful reboot of Batman's origin. Just
Yeah,
really, really, it meshed you in his world and Gordon's world, and there again, I would say in that one, Bruce doesn't have much of an arc. He's
yeah,
pretty much the same guy at the end of it as he was at the beginning. It's Gordon that has the arc.
yeah.
And it's a terrific arc to watch. To where at the end he knows who's under that mask, and
Hmm.
he's made his peace with it.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I like this coloring and the I mean it's I think that they're fun. In no way are they distracting, but like they fit just enough to have Catwoman's look in this. I think that's a fun I think the opening of Mad Monk, I think it's in that first issue, just
Yep.
quick and
Yep.
then done. And
Yep.
Falcone, because and it totally makes sense. Maroni has to go and that's the boss,
Yep.
and then that's it too. So it's I don't know, those are fun what do I want to say, earned like cameos that didn't
Yeah.
leave
Yeah. Yeah.
anything hanging.
I'd say that's an accurate description. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, good. I didn't fail. I was like, we're close to the end here. It'd be really bad. He's like, you didn't understand at all. Uh, Something that's always fun it's got to be as an artist getting to design a Batmobile.
Yeah. Yeah. In the end, I wasn't completely thrilled with that version.
Okay.
Uh,
Was it in Trinity? I just
uh,
reread Trinity too. I don't remember if we saw one in there or not.
no, we see a bat submarine.
No. Okay.
Uh, I don't think we do see a Batmobile. No. Um, oh yeah, briefly in the Batcave, Robin's hiding. Dick Grayson's hiding
That's
behind him
right.
when
Yeah, yeah,
Superman
yeah.
comes to visit.
And he's
Yeah,
like, get back upstairs.
yeah, yeah. With a little wink from Superman.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you weren't totally thrilled with this version.
yeah, and I can't remember why. I thought the
Hmm.
parts weren't quite as cohesive as I could have made them. But
Okay.
this is just me, art,
Yeah. You're your own worst critic.
successful artists, and by that I don't mean financially successful. I mean people that continually are invigorated by their art and want to create new things all the time. We're constantly looking at what we've done before
Yeah.
and said, how could I have done that better?
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't obsess over it, but like for instance, I don't have any of my own art on display inside my house. I have some down here in my studio, but upstairs, I don't want to look at it upstairs.
Yeah. Sure.
All I would look at is that one little part about that big piece that I didn't like.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's how you have longevity as, as an artist
Hmm.
too, is
Hmm.
because you aren't just like nailed it All I got to
Never,
do is just
never,
do
never
this again.
satisfied. Never
Yeah.
satisfied. Always reaching. Yeah.
Which you did say about with the Batmobile and like in the Batcave. I forget is this technically the Bat gyro that's hanging off of that's hanging in the
It's his
really hard to say.
glider that he uses in year one. There's a nice
Glider.
reference
That's
to
right.
year one. Yep.
And
That's
it's
how he
that.
gets up to Falcone's
Yeah.
penthouse. Yep.
That's a fun. That's a nice nod. I mean, there's not tons of bat caves, but I'm a sucker for a bat cave. Give me Bruce and Batman in a bat
Yep. Yep.
cave.
Yep.
Loved
Yep.
all that.
Yep.
Uh, you kind of. I mean, did you leave anything out that you were like, it just didn't work for the story, but I wish I could have. I mean, not a wish even. It's like didn't make it in the story. It would have been cool. I don't feel anything's
No,
missing.
no, I don't think
Really.
I did. And there are times where I do have stuff that's like, I wish I had room for that. Um, but no, not this one. I hit pretty much everything I wanted to hit. The I like the bit where before the Batmobile, he kind of has a prototype Batmobile because if you
Mm.
watch the old movie serials, it's not a Batmobile; it's just a big, large sedan.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know? And you have to figure he wouldn't, it would be a process. He wouldn't. He would have
Yeah.
a car for getting around in, but probably not in his Batman getup. He'd be, either half dressed or ready to go, or not something proclaiming his presence as loudly as the Batmobile does.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, here in the Midwest, I say this to people, the guests on here too, of like if we didn't like something, we would just try to avoid having to talk about it. So when I say, the compliments, it's because they're true.
no,
I
great.
do love these stories. I think they're great. They don't lose. I've been, reading it now for coming up 20 years. And I still there's just Batman stories that stay out on the shelves that you revisit periodically. And it's just I don't know. It just feels like the classic Batman, and I think these two have it. So, uh, good job.
Thanks, thanks. Well, I get the feeling we're getting towards the end here.
Yeah, I mean,
Let me
coming
kind
up
of
on the
wrap things up
hour.
by telling you a few of my favorite bits from it. How about that?
Please do. Yeah.
So that one I was just talking about, that um, uh, with the car, the kind of
Hmm.
proto car, I love the bit where Julie notices that he eats like an athlete. He eats
Yeah.
basically
That has stuck with
steak and
me.
potatoes. That's all. Or steak and vegetables.
I
That's what
have
he eats.
had that for a meal, and
Yep.
I reference that point, no
Yep.
joke. And I'm just gonna
Yep.
like, I'm eating like Batman today.
Yeah. The bit where he escapes the dungeon with the uh, monster men. He's trapped in there with three of the monster men, and he escapes using just a pair of handcuffs and a length of chain.
Yeah.
I was real happy with the cleverness of that.
Yeah.
Um, and then in the Mad Monk, I just love the bit that he steals the silver candlesticks from the Wayne Manor dining room to melt them
Yeah.
to make silver
That's so
batarangs.
cool. I mean, I hate that I can sit back and some things and just I have no better words than like that's so cool. But like that's so cool. That's all I
Yeah,
got. That's I can't
yeah, yeah.
say anything else. Um, I'll say some favorite like imagery because I meant to say this before too. Um, well, first you just said Mad Monk. In your mind, do you think the monk is a vampire, or is he just a regular human that's just messed up?
Ain't saying.
Insane. Okay, good. I was didn't want to lead, just wanted to ask the
We
question.
do. I do the same thing in Grendel, where through the many incarnations of Grendel, like, is Grendel a sentient demonic force that inhabits these people? Is it
Hmm.
a cultural zeitgeist? Is it a personal psychosis? What is it? I don't say. It's like, well, when you read this story, it might seem it's this way, and when you read this story, it might seem it's this way. So
There's
I'll just leave that ambiguous, you know.
excellent. Good. If you would have answered, I might have cut it out. Um, but it's kind of like
save
John
you
Carpenter.
save
He
you that
gets,
problem, yeah.
yeah, he's asked all the time about the thing, and he'll never answer. And
Hmm.
he has something in his mind, and he said, there are things laid throughout the movie
Hmm.
that can reach my conclusion, what I think, but I'm never going to say. I'm like, good. I
Hmm.
think that's the way it should be. So I
Yep,
found
yep.
the 2 pages. In addition, so I think the cover of Mad Monk #1, that's my favorite image throughout all 12 issues and covers included. I just love that. But these two I think are just I love panels and pages that are like need no context, and yet it just works. And
Hmm.
so this is in the first issue of over
Yeah,
here, Batman
yeah.
coming behind all the guys, and it's what? Oh my gosh, I love that. And then the other one is waking up next to I think yeah, Maroni's bed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Which
he's
is,
just
I later turned that into my statue for Batman Black and White,
oh nice.
which
That's the
is
one.
it's also the same image of him, kind of like spreading his cape like that. Is a panel in the Batman Black and White story I did. There's a thug is like going through a fancy dining room, and there's these curtains are drawn over the window, and as he turns away, the curtains part, and it's you realize it's Batman's cape instead of the curtains.
Awesome. That's good stuff. Oh, it's just weird with my mic. Can you hear me
You're
okay
blipping
still?
now and then, but yeah, I can still hear you. Yep.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It just shifted different mics on me. Maybe it's telling me, let Matt go. You've reached the hour. Let's cut it off here. Um, yeah, I mean that was a very fast hour. Thanks. I mean, thanks again for sitting down. I know there's more Batman work that you've done that I didn't touch on. I mean, even in this
Well, we
collection
can we can
itself.
schedule other episodes. How about that?
I would love it.
There you go. Yep.
No pressure. I would love it. The Riddle Factory. I know you did the writing for that.
Yep.
There are parts of that story that horrified me as a kid.
Oh, great.
We'll tease that for another
Yep.
discussion then. As well as the Legends of the Dark Knight with faces. Yeah, there's other Batman work I'd love to talk to you about. So, but I'll let you go. Thank you again for sitting down and talking to me. Can people follow you anywhere? How can they keep up with what you're up to? I know you already said Dracula, which I'm
Sure.
waiting. I'm waiting for all four, and then I'm just gonna slam through them all.
Sure. Sure. And we will release it all in one big fatty volume after
Awesome.
after all four are out. And we have plans to do because Kelly's art is so magnificent in black and white. We're going to be doing gallery-sized editions, in
Wow.
black and white as well. Um,
That's awesome.
Sure, you can follow me on Facebook and X and Instagram. I'm less active on Instagram. When I remember to get on there and post, I do. I have a website called mattwagnercomics.art, and there's an online store full of all sorts of stuff that's from my private vault of stuff I've collected of my own stash over the years. There's prints, there's um, figurines. I mean, there's all sorts of cool stuff you can buy there. Uh,
How did I not know that?
yeah,
As I'm talking about, I want to buy some stuff.
mattwagner.art. Yep, yep,
Well, it's right
yep,
there, Ryan. Give me
yep.
your credit card information.
But
Uh,
I post pretty regularly on both Facebook and X almost every day.
yeah.
I just posted today a story. I don't know. Are you familiar at all with the very popular podcast, Last Podcast on the Left?
Uh, I know of it. It's
Yeah, it's
fuzzy
a,
on
it's a
specifics, but
really popular podcast about all sorts of kind of outrue stuff. So
mm,
serial killers, UFOs, cryptids, etc. All sorts of fun stuff like that. Um, the main guy on that, he and his wife also do a side podcast called No Dogs in Space. That's a deep dive into all of my favorite bands, all the early punk
oh,
scene, Ramones, New York Dolls, et
wow.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had written him a fan letter saying, "Hey man, I love that podcast." And they do a comic book version through Z2 Comics called Last Comic
Mm,
Book on the Left. And in the upcoming issue 4, and these when I say issue, they're big fat graphic novel sized
sure.
volumes. Um, I drew a 20-page story that Marcus wrote about Sid and Nancy, about who killed Nancy Spungen, Sid Vicious's famous,
Wow.
famous, very doomed and sad girlfriend.
You got to become of something. You got to become a part of something you're a fan of. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how
Well,
cool is
that's happened to
that?
me my entire career, man. I mean, I've pretty much hit my entire bucket list of characters I wanted to work on. I would probably like to do a more extensive Superman series, but I would only want to do it set in the 30s, and they probably have no interest in me doing that. But I've
DC
done,
wants to make money, right? I'm just
yeah,
saying.
I've done Batman. I wrote Zorro for years. I wrote the Zorro Django crossover with Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, wow.
Um, I got
Wow.
to do the Shadow. The Shadow's been one of my favorites since I was a kid. So I basically got to touch all my favorite play toys from when I was a youngster.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, I maintain my own sandbox with my own toys. So
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even bring like the combining of the two, Batman Grendel. Like I didn't even
yeah,
mention
the
that once
background.
this
Yep,
whole
yep,
conversation. So,
yep, yep.
I mean, let's talk again.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
talk
Anytime,
again.
man.
That'd be great.
Anytime.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt.